Are we ready?
Okay.
Hello, hello, hello.
Oh, nice.
What's up?
Hello.
Purple politicians sing it.
Hey,
Purple
World.
Hey.
We have a bigger crowd than usual because we had a lot of people that wanted to do some input on their bootleg experience. So we're doing a part 2 to the bootlegs. Let's introduce ourselves.
My name is Ron Worthy, DJ extraordinaire and founder and editor of Soulhead.com and Prince aficionado.
And this one.
I'm Tonya Giddens. I am the creator and executive producer of the Purple Paisley Brunch. And I am also a Prince snob, and I detest Clint at times.
She loves me.
I love to hate him.
Yay! I am Masina, and I'm on the side of Tonya. That's it. That is it. That is all.
She's the ex-host.
Hi, I'm Robin Shumays. I am a mom, a designer, a dancer, and a Prince scholar. Hello.
Yeah.
University of Minnesota, June.
Hi, I'm Caterina Pierre. I play Prince Records extraordinaire as DJ Raspberry on MakerParkRadio.nyc. So I hope you check me out. Thanks. Yay.
And I'm just Clint.
All right,
Yeah.
let's move on. All right, so as the moderator today, thank you for allowing me to do this.
She forced us.
No.
I did. So I really want to talk about the history of bootlegs. So Ron, I'm going to defer to you. Tell everybody out there who really has no idea what a bootleg is, what are bootlegs?
So I will share my time with Clint because we actually spoke about this prior. But a bootleg is, it's just what it seems. It's illegal. It's something that is not official. Something that is in multiple categories. So that, in the case of Prince, can be a demo, an outtake, a rehearsal, an unreleased album that was a complete record, a live performance that you were not able to go to yourself. I think I mentioned rehearsals. I think that's probably the majority of the things that people would consider to be bootlegs. And they're bootlegs because they're not easy to find. It's not easy to get. It's sort of like bootleg alcohol back in Prohibition, where you couldn't just get it on the street. There were no liquor stores. You couldn't go in a tower and get this.
It's basically what you're not supposed to have, but what you really want.
Exactly.
Jinx.
Yeah, so that's what a bootleg is. And I think that answers your question, but I can continue to talk about this, but I would say that's what a bootleg is.
Okay, so we're all here and we all at one time or another have had our experiences with bootlegs. So just in 20 seconds or less, starting with you, Clint, what was your first bootleg experience?
My first bootleg experience. I have a friend, Chris, who I've known for about 30 years, I say. His sister kind of got me into it. She had a bootleg of the Black Album, which she recorded for me. And from there, we kind of went around looking for other bootlegs. We kind of ended up in a village, going to Revolver, which was our main place, Bleecker Bob's, places like that. Back at the beginning, we were collecting the records. Then when the CDs came out, and that was a big deal, we started collecting the CDs. And we just, kept doing it. The videos, we would buy videotapes. And this was before the whole trading circle that exists now was set into play. But, I did know people from the AOL chat lines. You remember the Paisley Park chat line? And I met a couple of people there who I would trade. So we would do snail mail. We would mail a videotape and they would mail back a videotape or, CD tape, whatever it was. We would trade that way. So that's how I got a lot of my collection. The back of Rolling Stone actually had some people that would sell bootlegs, so I would get it from them. Wherever I could find something that I didn't have, that I didn't know too much about, I would get it from there. And that's in a nutshell.
And that's
My
no more
history.
than 20 seconds. You do know that, right?
My watch is.
Oh, but I
still-
forgot this is your show. So
This is my show.
Get a little leeway.
And this is the first hit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Kat.
I can do mine in 20 seconds. I never bought bootlegs. I grew up here in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. We didn't have a lot of record stores. We had one record store in Greenpoint. It was called Elephant Records. I didn't know enough to ask them, do you have something behind the counter print? I didn't know enough to do that. I might have one bootleg DVD of a concert of Prince that was given to me as a gift by my husband, but I didn't know to buy them. So that's why this whole conversation is so exciting for me, because this is not a world that I knew very much about. So that's my 20 seconds.
Okay, mine might be like 30 seconds. My first experience with bootlegs, honestly, I think was when I used to listen to the WBAI Prince specials, because that was when my eyes were opened up to the idea that Prince actually had all these songs that like were not on like a regular record. What is this song? What is that song? I never heard that before. And then like my first boyfriend, who was a Prince fan, he had some bootlegs, and I was like, you mean you can buy these? And then when I had my first real job, it was a job in a record industry, and it was in the Village. And then I would like go, and I was very close to Revolver Records. I'd go there and like get stuff. I would go to Bleecker Bob's, either east or west or north or south. And Maury and Rachel would sometimes come to my job, and our favorite thing to do after I got off from work was to go like scourging for bootlegs. So that's how I sort of transitioned into the dark side.
It is the dark side.
My story's similar. I listened to BAI, and it was like a late Saturday or Friday night because they played the weekend-long marathons of Prince on his birthday or on New Year's Eve or Christmas, right?
That's right.
Yep, and I would cut church, everything. I would act like
Bad.
I swear.
She gets sick every Christmas. It's
I
bizarre.
did, and then but then after it was like Napster and all that, and people would send me stuff, and I got into the chat rooms, and people would just send me stuff, and that was it.
Okay.
And now I'm hooked.
All right.
Deal with it.
Ron.
My descent into, as you said, the dark side. I came into college being a big fan of Lovesexy and had started hearing about the Black Album. And one of my classmates, I went to Stanford, and she had B-sides, like all on one cassette. And she hooked me up with that and the Black Album on cassette. And I actually saw one of the original copies of the Black Album, not re-released, but one of the bootlegs. And I think that just really introduced me to the concept of bootleg. Prior to that, I had been in summer school at Exeter, and I had learned about the Grateful Dead. So I knew there was this sort of underground and underbelly of music recordings that existed for whatever artist that existed that you were interested in. So when I really got into it, though, after listening to Black Album, realizing there was this whole catalog of music that other people weren't into or didn't understand or have access to, then that immediately got me excited. And so the first real foray into bootlegs was with this particular record. And I remember being in Berkeley, California, and seeing that. And this is a very famous bootleg, and it's a small club performance. And I remember it cost me $80 in 1989, 1990. And I remember that's a lot of money. It was a lot of money back then. It's a lot of money now, but it was a lot of money back then.
When you're like 18.
But I'll tell you, so my foray into this was, what I did was I did something that sort of venture capital. I actually went back and I told people at school, I said, hey, I found this record that you guys have never heard of. I need you to buy shares in it.
Oh,
nice.
I sold shares to this record at $10 a pop.
okay.
That's dope.
I got 20 buyers. of it before they even knew what it was.
Wow.
Awesome.
And then I
Wow,
went
that's
back and
impressive.
took half of that money to get me from Stanford to Berkeley, transportation-wise, on the bus. And then got this bad boy back, bought the cassettes, and sold them to everybody who put the $10 shares in.
Wow.
That's dope.
And so
actually-
that was my first
dope.
this particular, and I still
was
have
excited
this
that.
record. I
That's
still
why
have
he
this
owns a
record.
business and I work for the city.
Yeah.
30 years later, I still have this record.
Yeah.
That's
Good
awesome.
condition them.
Yep,
Sure.
Beautiful.
no
See,
doubt.
Wow.
And
This is an important record, by the
It
way.
really,
It
is
really
important.
is.
And disclaimer: we're not promoting, we're not endorsing the sale of bootlegs, but I am creating a case to say that bootlegs are somewhat important in keeping the legacy of Prince alive. And the way I see it, there are three different types of categories of bootlegs, which Ron kind of covered. There's the live. I break it into three. There's live, which includes concerts and rehearsals. I include the rehearsals. There are the studio compilations, which are just random songs just kind of thrown together. And the vault, yes, the vault. And there are the unreleased projects, which are albums or ideas that he had that were actually configured but never released. And you know, we have some examples of that. Who wants to start with the examples of showing?
Well, since you're the one talking, start with
Okay,
you.
okay. Let's start with the compilations. My favorite one, which Ron and I both have, is the Crucial album. It's not.
Sorry, really important record.
Now this falls under the compilation because it took an era of time, mostly late 80s and early 90s, and kind of just compiled them. Now the reason I like this particular bootleg is that it was thought out. It was well thought out, and it was configured in a way to make it sound like it was an album, because it was very consistent, and it kept the theme as far as the tone goes. So if you listen to it, it doesn't go from one extreme to another. It just keeps a nice little groove going, and you know that to me that's a very smart way of packaging a bootleg.
Very jazzy,
Yeah, it's very jazzy.
which went well around the time that it was actually released and sort of became popular because it was around the sort of jazzy Sign of the Times era.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so it was letting you know that not only did he do this remarkable work with Sign of the Times, but he could have gone even further than that.
Yeah.
And
See,
this was the further of that.
right. This is when he was embracing jazz. He was hanging out with Miles Davis. He was getting influenced by Eric, who was teaching him the history of jazz. You know, Madhouse already happened. And, you know, you could just feel that he was going in that direction, but he just never fully went on it with his name attached to it. You know, Madhouse, he did release Madhouse, but, you know, pseudonym. But, you know, you have songs like Crucial in here, and the version of Crucial that's on this particular bootleg has Eric Leeds on saxophone, which is not included in the Crystal Ball release. Crystal Ball kind of removes Eric altogether, so all you get is guitar. This, to me, is the better version. There is a jazzy version of Weekend Funk, or Weekend Fuck, however you want to say it. Welcome to the Rat Race, which is really small, dark room with no lights.
Which is one of his best songs of all time.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
you know,
life is like looking for a penny in a dark
the
room.
lyrics are incredible, and the complexity of the song is actually really
Oh,
good.
God.
That's one of his more complex jazzy songs.
Yeah, it doesn't get too much better than that.
Right, and Little Red Riding Hood, which is Can I Play With You?
Which
Obviously,
was an invitation to Miles Davis.
yes, and that was credited to Miles Davis. I think it was Miles Davis. Actually, weren't there further bootlegs that kind of confirmed that it was? So, Can I Play With You did have Miles Davis on it, but they never really want to credit him. Don't know why. I have my theories,
However,
we'll talk
on
about
the
it
cover,
But on the bootleg, it says with Miles Davis and friends. So on the bootlegs, it is, hinted or expressed that Miles Davis is on this album. So this is an important album to me because it was one of the few compilations that, again, being well thought out, but kind of showed him in his jazzy state. Any thoughts on that? Since you shared on this one.
yeah, I would say that that was one of the records that when I actually got it, I don't know, it was important from a social perspective because I was one of the few people in my circle that was the digger for the Prince stuff.
Right.
So from a social perspective and even a dating perspective, if you had these types of records in your cachet, women liked it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you be like, if you meet a woman out and about, at the time I was living in California, if I meet a woman out and about in Oakland or San Francisco, I'd be like, yeah, I got this unreleased Prince record. They'd be like, oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
You might be a little more successful than that.
How was that guy you met last night? Oh, he had no money, but man, did he have bootlegs.
Exactly, right, exactly. And that's pretty accurate to where I was at 21. So yeah, it was important. But I think the other side of it is, for that record specifically, is when you're listening to it, you feel like you're in a very private universe that was reserved for people that wanted and needed to dig deeper. And when you actually got that record and you got it back to your house, you felt like you were in a rarefied space. And so to me, whether I liked all the songs or not, it really didn't matter because I was in this other zone with other people like we're doing right now.
Right.
And that meant the world to me.
Okay.
Okay. I have the chocolate box.
We're
best.
mad at that. We're mad at that.
And the funny thing is, I only got this because I saw it online. I'm
so
not
good. So jealous. I lost mine, by the way.
This is probably
And
it. Yeah, because I wasn't a collector. I'm sorry. I was too young to start going to the shops and buying these compilations and,
Our baby.
created by, the fan base. But I bought this online and I actually liked it because it was an experience for me having the vinyl version of a bootleg, because then you notice that how people put it together. You have the white labels. Some of them are not distorted, but slowed down so that they're not recognized or something, and things like that. And then also the titles aren't what we know them as. Like what's on here? I don't have my glasses, but some of these are different from what we know them as. Like movie stars. There. What's this? Heaven. This is
Joy and Repetition.
Joy and Repetition. Like the title.
Pretty Face is Data Bank.
Yeah, Data Bank, and that's one of my favorites. Data
And
Bank.
We Can Fall as We Can Funk.
Yeah.
How much was it?
15. I think.
$15. She got
When did you buy it?
Oh, about 2 years ago.
Oh, that's not
Man,
bad.
I'm so mad at her.
Oh man,
Wow.
So
so jealous.
but with this, one more thing, just that
Pretty face.
Pretty Face, which is Data Bank.
Data Bank.
I love that song.
Yeah.
That's a funky song.
Yeah,
That's
that song
my
is amazing.
I like where he's playful and it's like a skeleton song where he's just messing around. And you could tell what Prince, like we're trying to explain, is that when Prince, it's like you're in the studio with him. It's a throwaway song. Somebody's saying, sorry to put my hand in your face. It's a throwaway song, and it's like you're there with him in the experience, whether it's live or rehearsal. You're there with him, and I still say to this day that he let some of them leak. That's that.
There was always that.
I believe that he did that as
And
well.
then,
There were certain songs that he just
For
said,
us.
have at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's really amazing about this that I'm going to talk about, and actually I want to share a quick story that actually piggybacks on the source of what we're talking about here. So this is a pretty important thing as well. This is called Royal Jewels.
That's the bomb.
And so what's really interesting about this actually is that this actually includes all of Chocolate Box.
Yeah.
And I just saw that, and let me just read. So if you look on the back of this, you can see there are some liner notes here, which is pretty interesting because a lot of these types of releases didn't actually include liner notes. And actually, I bought this in Hollywood. So this says, to piggyback on that, it says, little is known about the Chocolate album. Apart from it being a loose set of completed sessions put together in Europe in early 1987. One must imagine that these European jams traveled from the land of imported vinyl by way of a certain city in Minnesota. And this also talks about Camille and Sign of the Times and all that. The good thing about this album actually is that this is mostly the scratch vocals from the Family's album, and you have things in there from Sign of the Times. You've got things in there from Jill Jones's record. Purple Rain. You've got all of Chocolate Box actually. If you look at it, side 5 is Movie Star Heaven, Starfish. So side 5 of this is essentially but I had this. Now, but what I want to show you though is something very interesting that I'm sure nobody has in here.
Dun, dun.
You guys aren't ready for this.
I don't know.
You guys are not ready for this.
Don't forget your mic.
Now that we're talking.
It's right there.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure he's good. Okay.
Now that we're talking about bootlegs, drum roll.
Okay.
Does anybody remember this?
Oh my God, I used to have those!
I used to have that. I haven't saved any of my Uptown.
I don't have it anymore.
I have all.
Oh
You
my
guys-
God, I'm gonna freaking cry.
Me too. I have them on PDF.
Yeah, I have all of these on PDF.
But this
Really?
is actually
Wow.
the
The
definitive
original,
Prince
yeah.
bootleg discography. And what I'll say is that this is actually not the definitive discography. I have a bigger book by Per Nilsson
I think I
that
have
is
that.
incredibly awesome and
ball?
sells
I have.
on eBay for a ridiculous amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find it today,
Oh, I
but
should have brought that. I didn't think.
but what
about
I'm
that.
saying is, look, just show them pictures of that.
It's called The Vault.
Yeah, something
Yeah,
like
well,
that.
You guys can
Okay.
see that.
That's rough to find. You can never find
This
that.
is the kind of serious
Oh, God.
Prince
What you got?
paraphernalia that
looking to see if
people
she
like
has it.
us would eat up like
Yes.
drugs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And this
And the
this is
descriptions, right?
literally just what you want in your life.
Yeah.
And looking at this,
I need this.
yeah.
Mhm.
I will be photocopying this and scanning it so that people can have this.
Yay.
But this is the real deal,
Yeah, it is
right?
the real deal.
That's
I
the
remember.
real
I'm
deal.
old. We're the same age.
So
I
you guys
remember.
know
I had
that's the
it.
real
Yeah, I
deal.
remember that. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you that. So I'm gonna share.
Oh no.
So we don't have a lot of time, but I'm gonna share a couple of things here that I think would be really interesting for people to see.
It's like a magic.
So,
Oh wow.
so we have these right
gonna
here.
cry.
So before Prince and a Microphone happened,
I have that one.
we were looking at things like this that were vinyl that included Prince on the piano composing songs. And I was talking to Clint earlier, is this is when you know you really delved into the darkest corner of Prince fandom, when you didn't care if the song was done or not.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
quality. Or
And
that.
imagine as a fan of music, if
Nice.
you're used to listening to music that's complete and judging it after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are already so bought in that we don't care if it's done.
Yeah.
We don't care.
Well, see, and this kind of falls into why it's so important. Recordings like this is the intimate moments, which is more or less the piano and
And a microphone.
piano and a microphone 83. There were
20
two-
years before, 30 years before I even heard
they
this.
were circulating way beforehand. So we had those. Maybe not in as good quality as what was
Especially
released, but that's what we strive for. We'll own the bootlegs, but if something better comes along, we're gonna get it. We'll get the better recording if it's officially released.
Right.
So we're not gonna take money away from the estate because we'll still give it if they release it.
Yeah.
No.
Now, I have a question.
Ask.
Okay, so on the first bootleg that Ron showed, it said soundboard for Small Club.
Yeah.
Now, for those who don't know, there's a major difference between the soundboard recordings and then just the regular fan
Audience recording.
recordings. Which one of you gentlemen would like to take this? Or actually, Robin hasn't spoken. Let Robin handle this.
Yes.
I am going to assume, I am not an audio engineer, but I'm going to assume the soundboard is taken from the mixing board that they use to do the sound, and the quality is basically near perfect.
Yes.
Whereas if it's just me in like 1996, like standing there with my little Walkman recorder, it's not going to be that great. However, like we've all said and agreed with Ron, we don't care.
We don't care.
I don't care if, like, the only thing that's annoying about like the personal recordings is like if some idiot next to you is like talking or whatever. But I don't care. I will still listen to it.
Or that overzealous fan that's right next to the mic.
See,
Yes.
That's me.
That was probably also me at one point or another.
I do want to say something though, because when I was younger and I listened to those recordings, that made it even more desirable to know what that song was. Like, yes, I'm telling you to shut up, but I'm like, I need this because it's something I've never heard and I know it's somewhere.
Well,
so now that makes me dig more for that.
Right. Well,
that particular.
The point is, we just don't care. We'll take the dirty recording. We'll take the one with a lot of air noise.
What is that? Because we don't know.
I'm the type, I like clarity. So
need it all.
even though I have audience recordings, I don't necessarily listen to them as much as I listen to the soundboard.
Well, yeah.
Because for me, the soundboard, I'm able to hear everything, every little note, every little nuance in the recording. Not to say, and I'm dating myself, because my first experience with bootlegs was an episode of What's Happening. Do y'all remember that episode?
Okay.
Doobie Brothers.
Doobie Brothers.
Oh, the Doobie Brothers. I heard that episode.
First of all, let's be real. That would have been a shitty recording anyway.
Yeah.
Rerun under a coat. That would have sounded like shit anyway.
Yeah, pretty much.
He didn't even have a mic.
But that just goes to show you the evolution of the previous question is
Exactly.
that was acceptable back then. People were buying under the trench coat recordings.
Yeah.
As long as we got to experience what we didn't get to experience.
Right, exactly.
Because we couldn't afford concerts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that kind of leads us into the second type of bootleg, which is the live recordings. Ron kind of started us off with that with the Small Club recording.
Small Club is amazing.
And that being a soundboard, and that was a big deal for me because that was the first bootleg concert that I had that was actually a soundboard concert. It was an after show, but still. And, to hear it in stereo and hear the sound separate and hearing a cymbal over there and a bass over there, that was incredible, especially since the first time I heard it was on my headphones.
Clint, can we talk a little bit about, because a lot of people who may be listening may not even understand because of the artists that they actually consume, now, even the concept of an after show.
Yeah.
Prince is such a...
Ron, hold that thought for 1 second because I know Robin had something that she wanted to say. Robin?
Yes.
You said that you had a special live recording, correct?
Yes, I do. Actually, I found 2 of them. The first one is this one. I don't have the cover, unfortunately, because I put all of my CDs into books. But this one is called Cheek. And it's soundboard recordings from the Sign of Times era. Ooh. So the first one is, the first few songs I think is in Paris. I haven't gotten a chance to re-listen to all of them yet, but this is an amazing live soundboard.
The Paris show is great.
It's like amazing. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. And I'm very happy that I have this. And I actually refound all of these recently when we decided to do this project, and I'm going to re-listen to all of them tonight. So anyway, this other one that I have is This Is My Night. It's a soundboard after show from, it has a date.
It's from 93.
Yes, 12/4/93. Very good.
Wow.
Yes, and this is another era that I love. 93 was my era. Like the Symbol album was just amazing. So this is also really great. I don't think I have any more live CDs. But my experience was to just, like I said, just go walk around the Village in Manhattan and pick up all this stuff. So this one is one of my favorite. It's not live, but it's one of my all-time favorites. It's Heaven Must Be Near, which is, he recorded that with Ingrid Chavez. Right. So it's like a kind of a demo version of that. It has a lot of the ones that we've already discussed that were on vinyl, like If You Break My Heart, Witness. There's grand progressions on here. There's a version of Manic Monday with, I believe, Apollonia 6 singing. Parafantastic is on here. Electric Intercourse is on here. When he yells at Wendy, he's like, wake up, Wendy! So obnoxious. Anyway, Crucial's on here, which is also taken, I think, from that. I'm not sure if it's the same version, but I believe it is. Welcome to the Rat Race, which is actually called something else you said.
Large Room with No Lights.
Yes, they have that. So some of them overlap in terms of like the actual tracks that are on here. Some of them are better quality on some vinyls and CDs, and some are not. It's very interesting. Eternity's on here, which is a really beautiful love song. I love that song.
I like Shaka's version.
Shaka's version is good.
Yes, Shaka's version is great.
Is it
Sheena Easton?
Sheena Easton also has
I don't like her version
I don't
as
like
much.
her
I like Shaka's version.
Although I have the vinyl. But.
And the best of all, the Screams of Passion. Prince like kind of just like working it out.
He's teaching the band.
He's teaching the band, and like some of the lyrics are slightly different, and he's just on the piano and just like, the first time I heard this, I like cried, because first of all, I love the Screams of Passion. It's one of my all-time favorite songs that he wrote, and like getting to listen to him actually kind of go through the motions of it is just everything. Everything.
And that goes into the rehearsal process where Ron and I were talking about the importance of the rehearsal recording. And that's, you actually hear him building a song or a concept, and that it's good to hear the final product, but to hear the trail to that product is incredible. That's what I get a high off of. And you could always argue that you're taking money away from the estate, but you know what, the state could release this stuff too,
and we would buy
again,
it.
and
we'd still buy it.
We would still own the crappy recordings of it. We would buy a decent remastered or clean recording
in
of
a
it.
heartbeat.
It doesn't even have to be remastered, as long as it's first generation as opposed to 10th generation, which is probably what most of these are. So we as fans, as the deep fans, love that process. I love listening to rehearsals. I love listening to the live experiences that I missed. I missed a lot of it. I didn't really start going to his tours till the 90s.
So Clint, I want to actually jump in real quick. I think that when you talk about like, why are we listening to like these sort of precursors of songs that have already been released? I think part of it, to be honest, is that we love everything about Prince. We don't necessarily think that he's like a god or anything, and we do like debate on certain things. But the reality is that we like to hear the progression and the decisions that are made, because the reality is that he's not talking, he's doing.
Right.
So we're looking at the result of decisions that were made and how they were made. And that actually is a very big retention builder for us as fans, because all of that is fodder for our consumption. And we appreciate that, because to hear different versions, multiple versions of, say, Computer Blue, which, by the way, on record, I think is the best song on Purple Rain.
Yeah. It is.
I'm putting it out there.
So much.
We agree.
Yeah. So we don't, let's not even go. That's a whole other podcast. That's a whole other podcast. Computer Blue, in my book, I'm putting on the record, is the best song on Purple Rain.
I agree.
And that, to see that in different versions is just such a treat orally. Like, we're so fortunate that we had an artist that we adore, no pun intended, that actually gave us that much content.
Yeah.
Like many artists only give you the end result.
Yeah.
We don't hear all that stuff.
Mhm.
We hear Computer Blue from the beginning to the end.
Because there are at least seven
Yeah.
different
Right.
versions of Computer Blue.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I want to just explain why it's like that, and I kind of lost my train of thought. But the reason is because the record companies don't let you. If he wanted to, we could have had the 12-minute, 13,
14.
14 to 21-minute versions of these songs. But the record companies want this, that, and the other, and
It's economics
Yes.
that pushes
yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Because they want to keep it on one
yeah,
record.
they gotta
and blah,
have.
blah,
There's
blah.
only a certain amount of space you can have on a CD,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And Prince was always trying to push the envelope
For
in terms of
us.
how much he could actually put out.
for us, yeah.
Yes.
Well, for the record company also, it's just economics. Like, we only got a certain amount of budget from record perspective,
No,
right?
Yeah.
Every song ain't gonna be a hit. And like, no matter how much people love,
Yeah.
like, Come and that album, like, there was some garbage ass shit on
No,
it.
I love the whole thing. Okay.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Look, let's
No.
keep it real.
No,
Let's not start arguing about Come. That's fine. We can table that. I'm not saying there wasn't quality.
That's
on
a
that
different
record.
episode.
I'm not saying there's not quality.
I love
on
that whole record.
Let's table that discussion
Okay.
for now. You see the passion that we're dealing with here. That's not what I'm trying. I'm not trying to open up a whole nother can of worms.
But you
I
can't
get
please
it.
I get it.
everybody.
You can't.
Wait, okay, that actually reminds me. Sorry to interrupt, but I was just thinking, since there are so many different versions and we get to hear this version of this on this bootleg and this official version, has there ever been a song where you had the bootleg and then he released it or it got
Yes.
released and you're like, why did they put out this
Unlovable.
version?
Yeah.
Most
Yes.
times.
Yes.
We were just talking about joy and repetition.
Yes.
Yeah,
We can fuck. Absolutely. Those two alone.
yeah.
Extra lovable.
Oh God, extra lovable. Absolutely.
Extra
You mean the old
God,
version
yeah.
when he's talking?
That he wrote.
Oh, that was
God,
terrible.
yes.
But I mean, that was
It was
him though.
trash.
That was him.
But the
Sorry, Prince,
original
I love
was
you,
awful.
brother. I mean,
And it's
but
still unreleased because
Unbelievable.
Warner
Somebody
Brothers is
did
cowards.
what-
but doesn't he talk about
Warner
raping
Brothers
or
is-
something?
Yeah.
But come on.
But still, they
Oh,
can cut that
but
line out.
yeah.
I have to leave, and unfortunately, but I want to like bring 2 points before I leave.
Mhm.
One is that sometimes the bootlegs that we get, first of all, bootleg is a horrible term because it actually creates a negative on something that, in our opinion, is extremely positive. Like,
Vault tracks,
we
we'll call
love
them
this
that.
brother even more because of this.
Yes.
He gave us another outlet to express our fandom
Yeah.
that other artists didn't really have, right? Like, I like Michael Jackson, but guess what? All that shit was already released. You know what I mean? All I had to do was all I do is go on Michael Jackson. I'm not saying all. I know there's Michael fans out there gonna be tripping.
Yeah, Freddie Mercury do
Right, I get it. But for the most part, all of that stuff was released. I go to Tower to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have no idea where I went to get this record. Seriously. To get this particular record, I had to pay somebody to tell me how to get to another person to get this record. I probably ended up spending like $150 to get this record.
Wow.
And this is also not just the music, it's history. Because this is a record 3/21/87.
Oh, that's the
And
Sign
this
of the
is
Times
Sign of
rehearsal.
the Times
Yeah.
release. So this is like the first public release of Sign of the Times. Like to have this on vinyl, not tape, not on an MP3. Like I got this on like in my hand. And I spent money to get to a dude in another country.
You were so funny because you were saying that so much of this is like an addiction. And the way you explain that, like, well, I had to talk to a guy who sent me to a guy, it really sounds like a drug deal.
Now let me tell you, this is the one story that I was gonna hold back on that I'm a little ashamed of, but I want to put it out there. I was gonna write an article about this on Soulhead.
You still can.
I will still.
Soulhead.com.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, this is what happened to me one day. I'm ashamed of this.
Come coming more.
But this is really quick. I had a friend in college that was one of the people that bought this record.
Oh, the shares?
The share record. This one. She bought this record, and and we were friends. And she, after I graduated, she says, "Ron," she's like, "I know you're like one of the preeminent Prince fans in this area and this thing, but I got a guy that is a bigger Prince fan than you."
Those
And
words.
and so I said, okay, that's fine. That's fine. I understand the universe and it's possibly happened. Anyway, his name is Sam.
Sam.
So she gave me Sam's number. I called Sam up, and I'll never forget this. "End of the Road" was a big song. So this is like the summer of 92.
92, yeah.
Summer of 92. I thought I had everything, right? Not up to that point. And I called Sam, and I said, "Sam," I said, "Hey, homegirl gave me your number, and she said that you were just the Prince guy." He was like, "Oh, okay." He was like, "So, have you heard this?" So he puts the song on. And I was like, "Oh, no, actually, I haven't heard that." He was like, "All right, what about this?" He was like, "Do you like slow, medium, fast?" I was like, "Oh, I'm kind of a medium, slow guy." He was like, "All right, what about this?" And he played "If I Love You Tonight," right?
That's a good song.
Great song. And I was like, "Nah, I haven't heard that." I was like scratching and shit. Like got like drugs. I was like, "Oh shit, this one got that real shit." So I was like, so he said, "What about this?" And he played "Get Blue." And so I was like, I haven't heard that one either. He hung up on me. He hung up on me. And so I was like,
You weren't worthy.
You weren't worthy.
I was so mortified. I had nobody hang up on me in years. So I was like, "Motherfucker just hang up on me." I was like, "We just talking about Prince and shit." So I called. I was like, "Sam." I was like, he was like, "Look, man, I ain't got really time for this shit, man." He's like, "You got the goods or not?" And I don't know, because he was on the program. We talked about like swapping.
Just swapping. Yeah.
So
Oh,
he
man.
said, "I'm gonna play you one more song. I'm gonna give you one more time."
Prince fans don't like
The
that
pressure, son. Because I already knew I was hooked into something I didn't even know. It was the deep under. The deep under. Imagine if somebody, like, you guys know a lot about Prince, right? Imagine if you talk to somebody on the phone and they play you some shit you didn't even heard before. You were like, "Oh my God, like, you're my master. Like, you're my master." So anyway, so he says, he plays one more song for me. And I lied. I was like, "Oh yeah, I heard that." He was like, "What's the second verse?"
Oh, that's cruel.
I was like a parochial school student. I said, "Okay, you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I lied. I ain't heard it." He hung up on me again. So anyway, I call him back, and so he said, "Look, man, I ain't really got time for this. The only thing you can do to even possibly get in all up in this, is to get these 5 items." So I was like, I had a pencil. I was like, "Hold on, one second." I was like, "I'm gonna scratch that shit out with blood on my fingers on the paper." I swear to God, I couldn't find a pen. I was like, hold on, Sam, hold on. I'm like yelling at the phone. I'm like looking for a pen. I'm like, "Okay, find a pen." So the shit he gave me though was like some of the most rare shit in the world, like 45s that I was never gonna find. He was like, it was Tuesday. He said, "You get down here on Friday, and it's good if you do this, right?" I was like, "All right, fine." So he gives me like shit that doesn't even exist, like one side is controversy, the other side is like dirty mind. It's just ridiculous to find things. Anyway, I go all over the Bay Area. I drove at least 300 miles in 3 days. I didn't have a car. I rented a car.
Wow.
Son, I rented a car in 1992. Sacramento to go to a damn art show, to a damn flea market, looking for this shit.
What you want?
Let me tell you what happened.
Alright.
So I got a box of shit.
Oh my
And so he was like, look, man, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I ain't really got a lot. He was like pimping me out, right? He was talking that pimp shit. Like, I ain't really got a lot of time, son. So you gotta be here at 6 o'clock on Friday, and if you a minute late, I ain't even gonna talk to you. So it's a Tuesday, so I rented a car. I drove to Sacramento, drove to San Jose, drove to fucking Oakland. I went everywhere. All I found was like a bunch of random shit, right? I mean, I ain't had none of the shit he could find. I gotta find none of that shit. So I found my biggest thing was a Prince interview picture disc, right?
Had that one, yeah.
Peep it. So I go down with a box of shit. You know, I knock on the door. It's 6:05, by the way. I mean, I was speeding down to 5. You know, I was speeding because I was waiting for a record store to open and shit. Like, and I ain't like showered and eaten days. You know what I mean? Like, I had a box of shit and I was like hoping for the best. So I got down there. I'm knocking on the door. Oh, I'm breathing hard. I'm like, oh shit. Oh, I'm late. 6:05. Motherfucker not gonna answer. I'm like banging. I'm banging with the box on the floor. I'm like, Sam. I'm like, so it's like 6:10. This motherfucker let me sit there banging for 5 minutes. He comes to the door, and this motherfucker's wearing a gas station uniform with his name on it, looking like Eazy-E. I swear to God. So I got the box, and he was like, "You got my shit, son?" And I was like, yeah. I got your shit. So anyway, it was like a drug deal. It was a drug deal.
Yeah, it
So
was.
we go to the back room. And I was like, oh my God. We go to this back room. He didn't even talk to me, look me in the face. And so he was like, all right, what you got, man? He was like, look, I got the list right here I told you about. What's number 1? You got that one? I was like, it was a little hard to find. It was a little hard to find. He was like, what about number 2? You got that? I was like, that one was also kind of difficult. He's like, all right, man, like, you wasting my time now, man. He was like, I was like, man, I just drove 6 hours from fucking San Francisco, dog. Like, we got to do something. So he was like, what you got in the box? So I pulled out some stuff. He was like, garbage. He just like threw the shit around. First thing I put, he's like, garbage. So I was like, all right, man. Like, it was like, I was in there for 5 minutes. I was like, what you got? You know, I tried to turn tables. So he played Sex Shooter with Vanity. So I was like, I kind of melted. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool.
That's actually
wonderful. I have that one. Oh, that's on this one.
I was like, yeah, that's pretty
one.
cool.
This
you know, but when you hadn't heard it before,
with Vanity.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's kind of interesting. So he's like, what else you got? So I was like, all right. So I pull out my big thing, right, which was the picture disc. So I was like, here you go, man. This is what I got. I was like, you know, bang. He was like, really, man? He was like, dude, I can't believe you went through all this. So he went to the closet, pulled out a box, and took the razor blade out of the box, and he had a whole box of them. He's like, who the hell do you think's sending the shit to them?
Oh my God.
I'm the source. Son, I'm getting it straight from Paisley, son.
Wow.
I got everything. He played me like 15, 20. No, he wasn't trying to play me. He was trying to figure out whether there were other pockets of stuff.
Oh, wow.
He already had everything. Like, he had the vault. And I was in the room with the dude next to the vault. And he played me like 5 other songs and gave me 2 cassettes for all the shit I brought. And it was great. It was Manic Monday. You know, there's a few other things. If I Love You Tonight, I'll go get Blue. It was cool stuff. but it was still just like I felt like I had actually gotten into the back room of the bootleg experience.
Right.
Yeah, you got the source, dude.
Yeah.
And I never, and that just goes to show you that it's so diverse. Like, you got people that you don't even know are into this stuff. This guy looked like a mechanic from Compton. Like, he had a curl. He had a juicy ass curl. And he was with it, though. He had all that. All I'm saying is that's my quick story about, like, just, I would say that's probably one of the seediest, like, Prince, like, things I've gone
And
to.
that's interesting that you shared this because I know
Sam
had the goods.
Pick up your
Sam. It's interesting because I know from my personal experience, I wasn't here in New York when, I was in a junior in high school when I really started to get the experience for the whole bootleg situation. But when I went away to school, went away to college, I wasn't exposed as much. But there were people from New York, Norfolk State, shout out, behold the green and gold, that were deeply involved in obtaining the music. So I would reach out to them like, well, okay, well, do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? And they're like, yeah, I got it. Okay. Well, can I get a copy? Yeah, I'll give it to you for $20. $20? What? And I was, sometimes I'm like, okay, I'll get the money some kind of way. But then other times, like, you know what? It's not that serious for me. Until I came back home, and I was just like, okay, I get it. I totally get it. What is the most that you have paid for a bootleg? Any of you?
80.
Yeah. 80,
Probably
100.
80, yeah.
Because I wasn't making a lot of money either. And like at that particular time, we were all in our early 20s.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, that was like half of my paycheck.
That's a lot of money.
So it's like, it would be like saving some money to
$8
get
is
the
like
vinyl.
It's like $200 now, right?
Yeah, it's like, so that's why most of mine are on CDs, because they're cheaper.
Well, even the CDs were expensive back
Yeah,
then.
the CDs were expensive, but like, yeah, I couldn't really go over 80 or 100. 100 was like, okay, here, take the money.
I think I spent like $70 back in the day. I think I got the Family Jewels for $70 from Revolver.
I think I may have actually either got this in San Francisco or Revolver. But I'll tell you, the one thing that is actually kind of interesting about this, this was 60. And this is got a date of 491 on it. 491. But what's really interesting is the evolution of it, because once it got to CD, I felt like it was a different ball game, right?
Yeah.
Because you had cassettes, and that all has a limitation. But you got like CDs, like bootleg CDs, like The Work, right? And they had different volumes of that. And that would just like aggregate all of the stuff that we have.
Yeah, that's true.
And I will tell you, I don't mind those, and I love that because it actually is very efficient.
Yeah.
But what I'm about to blow y'all away with.
Oh, God.
Oh, no, you got another one.
No. So this was the first blow away.
Oh, my God.
This was the first blow away.
Can we go on?
And if we talking about bootlegs,
Wait. Yes.
I don't even care. I love y'all, but this is all about us right now. I ain't even looking at the camera. I ain't even looking at the camera. God damn it. Because y'all are cool. We love y'all, but this is all about us.
Yeah.
Because I'm about to bring something to the table about bootleg stuff that ain't nobody talked about.
I'm going to start scratching if you don't give me the drums.
Let's go.
Come on with it.
Drum roll.
Yes. Come on.
The Royal Hub.
What?
Everybody's
What's that?
I finally got y'all on something! Oh my God! Finally got y'all on something. Wait a minute. Like, honestly, you know what this means though? I'm gonna tell you, I'm happy and sad at the same time, because that just shows me that I'm a bigger crackhead than
What?
like, where you be like, like talking to somebody like, yeah, nigga, I'm sorry, I said N-word, I'm sorry. I be doing this, I be doing that, and be like, I don't really know what you're talking about. And you're like, oh, I'm a little further on the other side. You know what I mean? I am ashamed of myself for this. But you guys don't know what the Royal Hub is.
No,
I don't
I'm
get
gonna
that.
die.
I have
Tell
no
us
idea what
what
that
it is.
Okay. Silence. Around 2003, this is post 9/11. This is in the Kaza era, the whatever thing. And I want all of you after this meeting and talk to go to Prince.org and just go and look at just look up Royal Hub. Oh my God, it was a Prince crack house. Like
Damn.
it was oh God is right. Like one of my boys just told me one day, he was like, Ron, there's this thing where it's like you gotta get like kind of jumped in. So you gotta bring your own bootlegs digitally to this thing, and it's a shared network, and everything is on there. Like the vault is on there. So I was like, whatever, man. Fuck you, man. I ain't got time for that bullshit.
Is that one
So
of
anyway,
those TSB sites? Or
all I'm
whatever?
saying is you gotta download some specific software, and then you connect it with other people. And they had multiple terabytes. Let me tell you.
I think I remember
Let me tell you
that.
how deep it
I
was.
actually think I
Let
remember
me tell you
that.
how deep it was. Like once you got in, like I said, it had when I say everything, it was literally like dialing in the Paisley Park vault.
Mm-hmm.
So it was 2002, 2003, after 9/11. I was on that mug. Like once I got in and I got approved, it was so detailed that I remember I couldn't go to the concert at in DC for the 1999 concert that was at the DC Armory. So I typed in DC Armory 1982, and they have 5 versions of the concert on MP3.
Wow.
I want to ask
Like that were soundboard
What?
Yeah.
and audience. I'm saying everything. So what I'm saying is, I had so much shit in the queue that I couldn't turn my computer off for like at least 5 months.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of this, and I probably shouldn't. I don't really give a shit. Who cares? Some Prince shit. Fine. I don't care. If somebody is not gonna hire me because I'm saying what I'm about to say, fine. I did not change clothes or take a bath for like 4 days. Like I was 100%. Like I was like putting something in my
that's
queue.
like when I was-
In my queue.
No, I understand.
I was like, this is not gonna last forever.
That was me recording on WBAI.
Right. I'm saying but imagine if you
I
could
know.
Yeah.
I know.
multiply
I feel
that.
you. Yeah.
I had a queue that was this deep. And I fell asleep at the computer multiple nights because I just wanted to
So I
make
have
sure
a
there's certain
question.
shit downloaded.
So is Royal Hub then?
It's just
just
no,
gone?
it's done. It's done.
Okay, is that the name?
Somebody ratted it out.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Wow.
It only because once I knew I was in there, I was like, oh, I'm in the vault.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if you were in the vault right now. You'd just be like,
Yeah.
pockets ain't big enough, like stuffing shit, like, you know what I mean? That's how it was. And so you knew it wasn't gonna last. It lasted. I was in there like hard for like probably 2 months and a half. I mean, I was funky. I didn't like shower. Like I didn't talk to my girl. And I was like, this is what I'm about right now.
See, I was in something similar to that. It was like an FTP. I don't remember the type
Yes,
of
it was an
program
FTP thing.
but it was run by some guy, Bluefish or something.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
And I was
yes.
in
I've
that
heard of
one.
that.
Look up the Royal Hub.
I'll look
please.
up the Royal
Yes.
Hub.
That in terms
Because
of
it sounds a lot
like
like
that's
what
a
I was in.
big part of like this whole discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Is
I
this a-
think I was
okay.
in that. I'm sorry. I think I was in that one. And I remember like getting frustrated because it would like download partially and then like my connection would get cut off and I'd be like, no! It started again. So I didn't really enjoy that experience so much because I
This
guess
was
my
perfect,
computer
though.
was
Yeah.
not
This was like Netflix.
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Oh.
What is your favorite bootleg album?
Bootleg
Hard.
album. Okay, see, there's different categories of bootlegs. As far as album, if you want to go album, unreleased album, I'm gonna say Rebels because that kind of was pre-time. Like he wanted to have a band that he didn't want people to know that he was a part of. So he kind of designed an album cover which was all silhouettes of his, I believe it was a Dirty Mind band.
Beautiful.
And he recorded all this stuff, and it was more rock based than his funk and R&B stuff that he was releasing. So again, it kind of shows his broadness, and that kind of, even though the music's not great, I appreciate his strength in it and his want to be more than just Prince, I guess you could say.
All right, Kat.
God, because I'm the virgin
She's
of
the
the
virgin.
night, I'm just sucking this all in. It's incredible. So my references would be things then that eventually got released.
Right.
And I think my favorite thing of that people had that I didn't have that eventually got officially released, I would say probably International Lover, that's just on 1999, the Super Deluxe, where it's just Prince and Morris.
Yeah, the alternate take.
Love that alternate take. And probably We Can Fuck, that came out on Purple Rain Deluxe.
Yeah.
Which, when I heard that, it wasn't part of my bootleg experience, and it's such a clean, beautiful version. I love that version. So I'm going by things, though, that I didn't own as bootlegs. I'm going by things that I know people had, or people had kind of parts of, that I only heard after they got officially released.
Okay. Robin, favorite bootleg album?
Okay, well, I'm holding this one. I think I had started to talk about this one and I didn't end up talking about it. Lisa, Your Love Is So Hard. This is one of my favorites because it has a lot of really good songs on here, and one of my favorite songs is Vanity singing Vibrator. Okay, because that song is freaking hilarious,
Vibrator
and
is a great
I am,
song.
if you know me, and most of you don't, I love Vanity 6. Like I'm obsessed with Vanity. I've always, I love this. And let's see, Lisa. The song Lisa is like this really weird kind of disco song that Prince wrote for Lisa, and I absolutely love it. It's just amazing. That's a jam. So I would have to say that this is one of my favorites. This is one that I definitely played all the time back in the days, and was very happy that I found this.
Let me interject about Lisa though, and this shows Prince's progress. Lisa, if you ever listen to Susanna's Pajamas, they're the same song except one's instrumental and one's with lyrics. Listen to it, you'll see.
Really?
I
Yep.
don't know.
Yes, totally.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. May.
I have a set that includes all the versions of Computer Blue. It's called the Computer Blue EP.
Yeah.
And I love
It's
that
yummy.
freaking album. Well, whatever. But I love it. Because when I first heard, I've heard all the bootlegs, and my actual favorite was Lust You Always. But when I heard Computer Blue, the hallway speech version,
Yes.
praise the
Yes.
purple gods. I just sat there and I was like, this is a masterpiece. How do you even get your brain to function to say, I'm going to take this out of my brain and put it into some computers that, or machines,
Or
instruments that is just Computer Blue, hallway speech. Check it out, Purple Rain.
Ronnie, what
Okay, so funny you went back to Brown Junior High School. I appreciate that. I would say honestly, like nothing I actually brought here. There is a 1982 version of "Do Me Baby" on a live recording, and it falls into the bootleg because it was unreleased and it was whatever. But the way that he stretches out the intro bass on that, boom, 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 just like that, just like made me reinterpolate that song to myself, and I just love that.
San Francisco.
I'm not actually positive about that. It may have been New Orleans, but I will say that one thing that we haven't spoken about that's not quite a bootleg, but is in the milieu of bootlegs is 94 East. And I will and I will say that Do Yourself a Favor / If You See Me, sung by Pepe Willie, is actually one of my favorite things of all time.
I have that
because I listened to Minneapolis Genius when I lived in Oakland in the mid 90s, like, because again it was in the spirit of hearing new Prince that other people weren't really into, that like propelled me like for 2 years to listen to that record every day on my commute. And hearing If You See Me / Do Yourself a Favor, like I was just like, oh my God. Like Pepe's vocals were so smooth, and just hearing Prince and Andre, I was just like, oh my God, like it just warmed my heart. So I would say honestly, even though that wasn't like technically a bootleg, it's probably one of my favorites.
Okay, fair enough. All right, guys. I think we have talked a lot about bootlegs, and we can go on and on and on and on about bootlegs. But we're gonna wrap this up. So, Clint.
All right. Well, there'll probably be a part 3 because the vault is big, the conversation is big. It's just we can't contain this into one small little thing. It's gonna be 12. Who knows? Okay, maybe 3. But anyway, it's Clint
And Masina.
and
Everybody
Ron
else.
Worthy.
Ron.
and everybody else.
It's Robin.
Love y'all.
Bye.
Peace and be
All right,
wild.
everybody, group hug. Woo, woo, woo.